and a heartfelt namaste. I, Anuradha, would like to thank all of you for writing in your suggestions, liking, sharing, and subscribing to our YouTube and Spotify channels. Today, we are going to talk about a much loved, much awaited house, the seventh house. The seventh house is a warehouse of talent. When we talk about the seventh house, the first thing that any of us talks about is the spouse. So, is the seventh house just related to the spouse? Well, we're also going to talk about planets in the seventh house. So when we talk about the seventh house, let us look as to what the seventh house represents. The first thing, as I said, is the spouse or the partners that the seventh house is always talking about. And all of us are very much focused on the spouse and the partners. It talks about the first spouse. When we talk about the spouse, it could also be a live-in relationship in nowadays date and time, because according to Manu Smriti, there are 7 types of marriages. People call it 8 types of marriages also. So there are 8 kind of marriages, and a live-in relationship also defines that. It comes within that definition. The second child is also defined by the seventh house, because it is the house of the sibling of our first child. Trade and commerce. For people who are interested in doing their own business, the seventh house becomes very important, because it talks about the trade and commerce that one has. As the Karaka of the seventh house, Venus, the money-giving planet, holds importance when we talk about the seventh house. We will also see for many other reasons as we progress to the planets in the seventh house. Social status is endowed as per Uttara social status, or a pad, a platform, is something that the seventh house is capable of giving. When we talk about the social status, it is in the public forum, because the first 6 houses in the kundali are the adrishya bhavas, or the ones which are invisible. These houses are not open to others, in the sense that they relate to our own self. Myself, my family, my friends, my brothers and sisters, my house or my mother, my car, my knowledge, my job. Ultimately, my business, which is also somebody else's business. My life, which is shared with somebody else also. The seventh house is the first house which comes to the other in the public arena, or where we face others also, which takes us away from our own selves. So that is the house that gives us a social status. It is also talking about, because it is the house where we create a relationship, where we move into a relationship with others, and because it's the house of the spouse and the partners, it also relates to the genitals, or the organs that are important for progenation. It represents our open enemies. The seventh house talks about the people who oppose us. If the first house is I, the people who are standing opposite us are the people represented by the seventh house. The seventh house, as per Uttar Kalamrita, is also the path, or the path. That is, it shows us where our destiny is going to lead us. It shows us what kind of work, trade, commerce we can do for those who are interested in having their own business. And the seventh house, because it involves the enemies, because it involves a social status, because it involves a platform that we are living on. So it definitely invites others also, wherein controversies can be a part of those seventh house. So when depending on the planets on the seventh house can talk a lot of things. Again, not just the planets. Today we're talking about a general reflection that we see from the seventh house. If there's Mars in the seventh house, generally it is said that there's a lot of fights and clashes with your spouse. We'll take it up as we go, but it will also differ if that seventh house is, whether that seventh house for Mars is Capricorn or Cancer or Aries. So, or for that matter, Leo. Anyhow, any sign Mars moves in, it'll have an underlying principle as a seventh house will remain the same, but the way it reflects will be different. Similar thing holds true for the Nakshatra. So 7th house in Uttar Bhadra, Uttarashada will be different from 7th house in Shravana, being the same nakshatra, same house of Capricorn. This is important and we need to have a look at that also. So this is something that we should be aware of. We move on to the planets now. When we talk about Sun, what does Sun in the 7th house show? Sun in the 7th house shows that you are dedicated to your spouse. You could also in appearance be losing out on your hair. That person could also have a very strong problem with the government. Why so? Because in the natural zodiac, the 7th house is a house where Sun gets debilitated. Sun represents government. One can have problems, one can have disagreements with government, one can have disagreements with father, but however, the father will have a good income. That is also one thing we can say. So Sun in the 7th house will also create problems with the spouse, because the spouse could be little can play truant. The spouse can be very strong in his or her opinion, and that can also create problems in the marriage. So in general, malefics in the 7th house for marriage is not good. But if it is for trade and commerce, this very Sun can give you trade and commerce wherein you have strong partners, so you can earn from those strong partners also, or your partners can overshadow you in your work. So it's best to do a work on your own without involving too many partners. The moon in the 7th house. The moon in the 7th house can give you a changing job. It can, if you're looking for trade in trading in life, it can, or if you want to do your own business, this moon in the 7th house can put you in a business which can be related to agency. It can be related to dealing with articles which are changing with times. You might be wanting to change the articles that you're dealing with from time to time, because moon is an element, has an element of change, and it does not stay fixed. So the person who is dealing in such things would not want to stay in one place. Moon represents money also. So yes, if you have a good moon in the 7th house, it gives you a lot of money. Your spouse could be coming in with a lot of money in her life, and it could also help you in the sense, does not need to have been a dowry, but because she moves into your life, you can see that, or he moves into your life, you can see that there is an upward trend of finances in your life. It could also show negative emotions, because moon also is representing emotions. So in case of moon in the 7th house, the person could be very possessive about their spouse, and there could be feelings of jealousy or antagonistic feelings towards anybody else can also be seen. Again, it would depend on where the moon is placed. If the moon is placed in the 7th house in Taurus, then these feelings of jealousy, of antagonist behaviors towards the opposite gender can be very well pronounced. But if the same moon is in its fall in the 7th house for a Scorpio, such a person is calm, sedate, can be working in, because we're talking about the trade and commerce also, can be working in the medicine industry. Such a person could also be well established in their thought process. And if we are talking about nakshatras, so if the same moon is in Vishakha, it could give multiple partners also. In Anuradha, it can make a person go in for deep thought and analysis before taking an action, and can give a person a very calm kind of an attitude. And if this moon is in Jeshta, again, can lead to promiscuity when you are talking in terms of partner, in terms of work, in terms of life path. Such a person would be determined, can change life paths often, but can be determined and a go-getter in their lives. So this is about how the moon placed in one house in different nakshatras can give different results, and If it is placed in different signs, it will give varied nakshatras. So varied results. But the underlying theme will remain the same. When we talk about Mars in the seventh house, Mars in the seventh house is good because as far as getting work is concerned, it gives you a lot of work. But when we talk about marriage, because we have covered a number of things about genitals or social status or controversies, Mars in the seventh house gives you a propensity to hunt for more than one partner, because there is a lot of clashes between partners that leads to dissatisfaction and leads a person astray. But if this, and especially if this Mars is in the seventh house in the sign of Capricorn, where it gets exalted and it's a yoga karaka, so it gives multiplicity. But if the seventh house happens to be Cancer, in that case, the person will not be too much into fighting, but the person would be in a constant stage or rage of irritation, especially during the dasha antardasha of Mars. And such a person can create an unhealthy environment, leading to dissatisfaction from the spouse also, or to the spouse also. So this is something that one needs to understand, that the malefics, the kind of problems they can create, and during its dasha antardasha, one needs to steer clear of those problems. When we talk about Mercury in the seventh house, it's a good planet to be. Yes, people can say that Mercury as a planet may not give one a lot of spouse or an attraction for the other person, but the seventh house for sure is not just all about spouse. It is also about your trade and commerce. It is also about your social status. It is about how your second child behaves. So your second child could be an extremely intelligent child, especially if Mercury is exalted in the seventh house for you. Second, how the child in general in Mercury, when Mercury is in the seventh house, can be very polite, soft spoken, yet having a very strong business sense. And you also could show a very strong business sense. You could be very well dressed, know how to present yourself, and can hold a good social status. You could also be well learned, and you could also have a very strong knowledge of business. All the in fact, when we talk about higher studies, because the seventh house also talks about the higher studies that one can do, you could be traveling abroad for higher studies, because Mercury also represents travel, and you could be studying about subjects which are related to practical life, like you could be doing an MBA in HR or PR, or you could also be working in finance industry. So much so, Mercury also gives us an ability to do a lot of research. Without a good Mercury, one cannot do research. Jupiter as the planet in the seventh house. When one has Jupiter in the seventh house, which is it's good. One dictum I have found it working across ages is, if somebody gets married with Jupiter in the seventh house, during the periods of 21 years to 28 years, marriage is really not a very beautiful place to be in. And people can go in for, divorce also. But before that time or after that time, one has a successful married life. And I do have data to that. And in fact, if it's a retrograde Jupiter in the seventh house, you could have multiple partners. If this Jupiter is not retrograde and aspected by moon or has a connection with moon, then in such a case, such a person will have a very happy and a smooth married life. And all the things that Jupiter in the seventh house represents, be it higher education, be it money, wealth in marriage, happiness in marriage, comes in abundance. We move on to Venus in the seventh house. Venus in the seventh house is considered beautiful by Dr. B.V. Raman, and it does give good results, because seventh from Venus also in the Ashtak Varga, if there's a lot of points in the Venus BAV, then a person will have a happy married life. And Venus in the seventh house gives one a good partner. However, on affliction. It does not give one a good business, does not give one a good partner. In fact, can create miseries also. So the not just the signs, but or the nakshatras which are in which the seventh house falls. Also, any affliction or any good aspect of a planet will also modulate what a particular planet in any house, and in this case, the seventh house, is capable of bestowing on us. Saturn in the seventh house. Generally said that one has an ugly looking, if I would just like to add here that one may not look ugly, but one may come from some place which is not so beautiful, in the sense that one may not be up to the mark in on at least on one or two levels for the with the person, financially, emotionally, education wise, any of these things, the person may not be up to the mark as the native himself, but the person could be of service. If it is afflicted, then the person would be very quarrelsome, and there can be problems leading to movement away from spouse, and they can be person can feel absolutely lost in the relationship and can stray away from the relationship, and there can be marriage with somebody elder to the person, or a person who has lost a spouse. All these things are possible if Saturn is there in the seventh house. If Saturn is good, if Saturn is in the seventh house, is also a yoga karak, then this Saturn gives one a person, a spouse, who would know his or her responsibilities, duties very well, would take care of the person, and though there may be the love may not be very strong factor of life, but truth, honesty, dedication, and as such, responsibility towards the spouse can be seen. So Saturn as in houses can also give different results. When we have Rahu in the seventh house causes confusion. It can give you a spouse who's too dedicated to his or her own self, and can lead you astray also. You could also be fanciful about other people, and especially because Rahu denotes a foreigner. So you could be interested in somebody from a foreign culture. You could get married to people from a foreign culture, and that could also be a saving grace there, because this Rahu would then pick up that kind of an energy and could settle down there. Seventh house, Rahu can give you a child who would be more interested in things which are foreign, and who would be more interested in building up their own persona. When we talk about job, or when we talk about work, such a person can derive a lot of benefit from foreign countries when they trade in foreign countries. When we talk about the social status, such a person can find a good social status in foreign countries. Ketu in the seventh house leads one to a very unhappy married life. And if it is afflicted by Saturn, or by a Mars, or by a Sun, in that case, it can bring about a lot of pain. But this pain will lead you to a better place, or rather lead you to something that you had never imagined it can lead you to. So this Ketu shows pain, and it shows deliverance also. It also shows multiple partners. Ketu in the seventh house can also show a partner who is interested in spirituality, a partner who is thin, who has very sharp eyes. So as we move to seeing the charts, we can take up the charts of Amitabh Bachchan. Amitabh Bachchan has Rahu in the seventh house. It gave him a public platform internationally also. It also gave him businesses which he did on an international level. And it also gave him name and fame in many different countries, many different cultures. In fact, he's known in so many different cultures, and because of him, the Bollywood industry has gained importance in many such cultures. Guru and Sun combination in the seventh house for Sheshadri Ayarji gave him prominence in the society, made him an excellent astrologer, so much so that his books and his dictums are well known, are well respected years after he has passed away. He was able to bring about he was able to attain a platform that none before him were able to attain because of his diverse uh, diverse work that he's done in astrology. When we see his the nakshatra for him, Jupiter and Sun. The Sun is in Adra nakshatra and Jupiter is in the nakshatra of Punarvasu. So being in Punarvasu nakshatra, it would definitely have made him work harder. And Adra, Sun in Adra as the ninth lord in the seventh house, gave him the ability to find a strong platform and to be able to voice his opinion. If we look into the chart of Hugh Hefner, Hefner has his Mercury and Sun, both of them in the seventh house. In the seventh house, this Sun did not give him a very happy marriage, but with Mercury present in the seventh house, at to retrograde, his sense of business was very strong, and it led to the formation of Playboy magazine, which is known the world over, and it also led to the formation of the Playboy mansions. If you see my ninth house video, ninth lord in different houses, I would have mentioned that Mercury, and also in my Mercury, Sun and Venus video, I have mentioned that Mercury talks about huge houses. So he had this huge house in the seventh house. That means it was connected with his business, and it gave him a lot of clout, social status, and a standing in his industry as such. So when there are a lot of planets in the seventh house, you can very well decide, you can very well see that the social status is high. Your married life will depend upon the benefic or the malefic present there. So it's very important to understand the importance of malefics and benefics in the seventh house. Till we meet with you again, stay safe and do let us know how you found this.
Please hit the bell icon for fresh updates. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the videos, and please subscribe to our channel.